Hello everyone, Dan Dog Crypto. This past week has been very interesting as we can see the markets, how they're behaving, the collapse of FTX. Of course, everyone's trying to figure out what happened to FTX and how it could collapse. Well, it's certainly unfortunate to any smaller investors. Certainly the larger ones can absorb the hit, but as I've been stating, these coins now, I've always believed that they've been manipulated because we know the large institutions are taking positions and have been in cryptocurrency because of the underlying technology on how it works. We have that FTX collapse. So was it intended? How did it occur? Well, unfortunately now all these FTX publicity that's been created, government officials discussing it, talking it, the Gary Genslers of the world when Sam Bankman-Fried meets with them. So now media, it's being discussed daily, and everyone's trying to figure out how this could actually occur. So when you understand the manipulation and the people at the top, was it really intended? So it leaves a lot of unanswered questions, but I believe they are answered because of the underlying technologies. As we hear central banks wanting to create CBDCs, we know that the new Prime Minister of the UK has come out that they've been working with central banks. So governments and central banks integrating and have been aligned for the beginning of the century when central banks and Federal Reserve started in 1913, just put into effect. So we know that FTX, the collapse, and how they created coins and a back door to these crypto exchange and a hack. But interesting enough that we actually have the head of the CME, the CEO, who met with Congress, Terry Duffy, who believed that Sam Bankman-Fried was an absolute fraud. And it comes out after the fact. He was on CNBC discussing what he saw. But ultimately, it was to risk management, believing that there's not enough funds when it gets pumped. So by that, it becomes a pump and dump. So here you have a classic pump and dump where you have celebrities that enter into cryptocurrency and are supporting FTX. So the little person, the smaller person who's searching for an opportunity gets burnt. And that's unfortunate. That Sam Bankman-Fried now in the Bahamas is wandering freely. We have an interesting fact now that the hacker has moved into number 35 as the largest whale. So you get whale manipulation. So all of a sudden now you have to absorb the pressure, downward pressure. So these uncertain times creates even more pressure. We do know that there's been manipulation in the gold prices and the silver markets for years. So if they can manipulate those markets, how easy is it for them to manipulate cryptocurrency? So being in the right cryptocurrency, so some centralization when you have DeFi, in essence, is a good thing because it protects the community. And that's the key, because if you have a malicious whale with bad intentions can crash a community, create a bank run, so much devastation that can be done. And this is very important. So the integrity of a community or a project, that's why it's very important to know who's behind it. Because if you don't, these big whales manipulate it in their favor. So you look at the carnage and the wreckage. So can there be opportunities? Do your investigation. But we do know that the gold and silver markets have been manipulated for years. And it states right here where there's been an ongoing investigation. And I'll just let you listen to this.
Amass nothing but evidence that supports the manipulation of the gold price. But it'd be like talking about a murder trial when the jury would say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but you're going to have to present each point of evidence and how it all fits together.
There are numerous methods that they use to suppress the price of gold. Some are harder to prove than others, but some of them are fully reported, and that's central bank sales.
Between 1999 and 2002, the Bank of England foolishly sold a massive amount of Britain's gold reserves at an average price of $275 an ounce. The proceeds were spent buying euros and US dollars. The governments of Canada, France, and Switzerland, among others, were also sellers of their gold around this time.
We know that the central banks used to sell 400 tons every year. Well, why were they selling 400 tons? Obviously, it was the dumbest decision anyone could have made in the decade. By far the dumbest. But they did it every year. Sell 400, sell 400. I mean, now, gold goes from 300 to 1,600, almost 1,700. Why were you selling the gold? Because they were trying to keep the price down. So it was a coordinated thing to keep everyone focused on believing in currencies.
Alan Greenspan, in testimony to Congress, admitted that they were manipulating the price of gold when he said, "The world's central banks stand ready to lease gold in increasing."
As you can listen here, that the gold market has been manipulated for years because it gives more clarity to the fiat currency, where the elite and the 1%, they're the first ones that handle this currency and take advantage of it and benefiting anyone who is in a position of favor. Cryptocurrency was designed for the people, by the people, but the technology, the underlying technology now, they want to use in their favor, which ends up being CBDCs. But most people are not educated and they're very passive. So understanding what is really happening. I'll let you continue here and listen.
Quantities, meaning they were already doing it. Should the price of gold rise, meaning the target was to suppress the price of gold. So they were already doing it, and their target was to suppress the price of gold. He admitted it in testimony to Congress.
Although central banks are able to sell off their country's gold holdings legally, they may have also been suppressing the price of gold using some other rather questionable means. Some investigators believe that Western central banks have been loaning their country's gold to bullion banks. A bullion bank is an institution that sells gold with the intention of buying it back sometime in the future at a cheaper price. With the proceeds of this sale, these banks have been known to buy U.S. government bonds. While this isn't a problem in itself, central banks report the gold they have and the gold they've loaned to these bullion banks as one item. So while a central bank may claim it has a certain amount of gold in reserves, much of that gold may be on loan to a bullion bank, which may have sold the gold in exchange for government bonds.
One means of intervention in the gold market is the lending of gold to so-called bullion banks, and they sell it in the market. This suppresses the price as if the central banks would sell it directly, but this.
As you can see, so what's actually happening, and here you have the gold market, which is $10 trillion, and it's being suppressed by central banks because of fiat currency. So now, if they can manipulate, and this is the paper markets that they've created, and they've also been doing this with Bitcoin and certainly with Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies that large institutions are in, but who is manipulating the price, creating uncertainty, who has created bank runs on Terra Luna, which Senadal was questionable allegedly in the midst of this. And now you have Sam Bankman-Fried, who is a person that was highly respected as this amazing genius and taken in by our leading government officials to do what? To actually bring attention to the crypto markets because they want to put in legislation and they want to control digital assets. So then you look further in this rabbit hole, and this person's going to give it away. He's just wants to help you and want to give to people in need. And then all of a sudden, how many millions of dollars are siphoned and how wealthy the family is, and his parents at Stanford and attorneys that have ties to key personnel. And then you have this CEO, which is Ellison, the daughter, which is from MIT, which then there's another tie to Gary Gensler. So you look at all these things and it's like, oh, did this accidentally happen? And you have credible investors that you look up to that have lost money, but what are they looking for? More clarity. They want regulation. So their losses are a drop in the bucket for them, but the little guy gets squeezed and gets hurt. I'll let you continue here.
Lending does not appear in the book of the central banks.
The U.S. Treasury a few years ago changed the way they account for gold, and they're accounting for some of their receivables and their inventory as one line item. So they're accounting for what they actually have and what people owe them as the same thing. And that is basically illegal accounting. It's fraudulent.
But why work so hard to keep the price of gold and silver low? Why do healthy gold and silver prices threaten to collapse the Ponzi scheme?
There's this competitive relationship between gold and national currencies because gold is the only competitor to a national currency. You know, gold is money, and these national currencies are money substitutes that circulate in place of gold.
Fiat money gives the power to government. Real money keeps the power with the people. Because when you have real money, government is limited. It can only spend what it taxes.
And now real money actually is cryptocurrency. So a cryptocurrency is designed for the people where you can choose to interact, build a community, and interact within that community and exchange value. So cryptocurrencies now, and certainly the first one was Bitcoin, but we know that they're also suppressing Bitcoin because it's a threat to what they have. So does Bitcoin become the global currency, or will it have a role, or will it be somehow with the CBDC? But with DeFi, we have decentralized finance because information and money moves simultaneously. And we can code this new technology using Solidity, which is an Ethereum ERC20 token. So now what happens is you can have interaction, and the code, as long as it's not malicious and it has the intent, it will always do what it does. So your interactions, now the people can choose to interact with any, so they can choose to interact with any ERC20 token or interact with any blockchain. They can take self-custody and hold it in a decentralized wallet. So it's very important that you understand that an economy, a new economy can be created. And this is where I've come out based on what I've seen, where I believe Pzen is an early opportunity, because the people can create and interact cooperatively together and exchange and redistribute value. So Pzen is this. So Pzen, a redistribution network where the economy, it's an economic economy, because the code is crucial, because the code identifies and does everything that it says it will do. There will be a redistribution. There will be a burn. There will be a distribution to a charity, and all the participants will receive their proportion, their ownership, which ends up being the yield. So that 2% redistribution of Pzen minus your burn minus your charity wallet. Well, what happens now, that's an ownership, because the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, identifies your wallet. It's a self-custody wallet. Having this wallet, now it identifies it, and it's your ownership of this Pzen economy, in where you're exchanging value. There can only be a transfer. So it's a transaction transfer that it's being identified. Once we identify this, the variables end up being the volume and how much is being exchanged. Now, at that point, that distribution gets distributed the ownership. So this is an ownership of an economy, which is Pzen. It's an economic economy where now this wallet that is decentralized becomes an income producing. So it's going to compound. So now you're going to receive more Pzen at the value that it is today. And over time, because it's still early, day 92, as more interactions occur and as it gets recognized and it gets understood that it is not a scam, that it is a legit and it truly is working. So Pzen is an early opportunity. So identifying these things. Well, within compounding, what happens now, it's time. So your present values, what will your present value be worth in the future? Excuse me. Where we know that our future value of money will compound negatively for us if we're not earning and getting a return. Because what happens is your money, because it gets devalued over a period of time, so it compounds negatively as well. So you want to find assets that will appreciate in value but give you a return, a dividend. So the best, because of the code that's being identified, as I see, is Pzen, because it compounds, and the frequency of where it compounds and the volume that can be compounding dramatically will accelerate the time. So now, once Pzen and the community continually grows, I always say the odds of probabilities. So these odds of probabilities is, yes, I believe that it's an early opportunity. So Pzen, when you do your research and identify this based on all cryptocurrencies, can these other cryptocurrencies go up? Well, I'm not saying that they will not, but what will be the multiple? What potentially is the downside? What selling pressure do we have? Will a whale maliciously attack Ethereum and drop the price. I mean, so there's a lot of variables. Could something happen to Binance and create uncertainty? We've have Cardano. We have so many because they've been out for quite a while. So now you have had the value of these tokens, the early adopters that now are what position and what size, and are they taking profits or are they not taking profits? They're controlling the economy of these cryptocurrencies. So large whales can have a favorable or a malicious effect on a community. So that is very important. So that's why Pzen early, when we look at the amount of volume that is being done with Pzen, it's still in the early phases and it's not being manipulated because there's no large whales. And the price has been holding. Yes, it's off from its high, but are we 50% off the high? So it's a natural redistribution that occurred. And it's continually holding. So there's an accumulation. It's only day 92 in the journey of Pzen. So Pzen, the economic economy, when you look at it, what are the odds and the possibilities? So in this uncertain time where all these markets have come crashing down because of events and circumstances that have happened, I believe Pzen is doing very well and the redistribution is working. The volume is slowly increasing, but remember what I said. So if a larger whale, or as volume increases, price will start to move dramatically, but we're still early in the distribution. And as the participants, as they share, start understanding how Pzen works and understand that it's an economic economy, that a redistribution occurs, you have ownership of your asset, you may hold it, you may transfer it, you may trade it, you can do whatever you choose, and there will be a distribution. What happens now, and it works. The most important thing is it's working, and it's only 2,300 holders and growing, so it's holding well. So still early here. So what are the probabilities that we could get 4,000 holders? Can someone share and believe in Pzen and a conversation occurs and they introduce someone to Pzen because they believe in the benefits? That's creating Metcalfe's law, which is an economic economy. And this all happens organically. So Pzen occurred organically. So that's important because Pzen, that's how it all started organically. The launch was fair. There was no large whales that were dumping on the community. So Pzen in the day 92 is doing fantastic. Do your research. But Pzen is cooperatively owned by all the holders. And as the network, the economic economy continues to grow, the wallet becoming an income producer, compounding, which is key, at the rate that will accelerate, well, you want assets that compound. So even if they're compounding at today's price, your wallet value continually goes up. That is key. So now the size of your ownership, the amount of Pzen that you own, determines your yield and percentage of ownership. Off of each interaction or each transaction, that transaction transfer size, the frequency is time, but as soon as we end up getting and you receive more Pzen, you receive an increase in yield. So the yield and ownership will go up. So over time in the journey, by holding and continually receiving a compounding effect, your value of your holdings will increase. And that's not even including price appreciation, because there will be price appreciation. It won't take much to move the price, as volume will come in. It's still not even on CoinMarketCap. It's still unknown. It's still early in the journey as we share the benefits of Pzen. Early opportunity. Do your research. Don't be fudded out, but understand what's happening in the crypto markets. As I've been stating, certain coins have been heavily manipulated. They're manipulated by large whales, either to sell down. They can be manipulated as a pump. So there's so many things that can occur, but we have centralized and decentralized finance. To protect the community, some centralization is needed, as long as it's not a malicious or bad intent on the community. It is designed to protect the community from a malicious whale. And that's very important. Wish you the best. Talk to you soon.